Hey there everybody, this is Lee with Creative2xmom, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the books we read in the month of May. So welcome back to my channel. My name is Lee and this is Creative2xmom. This channel is all about homeschooling, parenthood, and the thriving in the day-to-day. And today's video is going to be part of a collaboration that is being hosted by myself as well as Ingrid over at the Ingrid Chronicles. I'm going to link her channel down below as well as the playlist. Every month we share a video like this one talking about the books that we read throughout the month, what we thought of them, giving you sort of a little bit of a preview into what they're about and whether or not we would recommend them. Also at the end of the video I'm going to be sharing with you just a little, probably one or two books that I'm looking forward to in June. So let's get started. So the first book that I read this month was called Made to Crave. This is by Lisa Turkhurst. This was one of the books on my spring reading list. I will link that video down below. It's one of the books that I've had on my bookshelf for a really long time. I've picked it up a couple times, started to read it, and never quite finished it. So I added it to my spring reading list this year, sort of a way of saying, okay, one last ditch effort to see if this is worth my time. I pushed my way through and I have to say it was really good. A couple months ago I talked about a book called Everybody Matters by Gary Thomas. I will link that month's video down below. He links your physical health with your spiritual health and how they complement each other, how they work together, how becoming physically healthy is sort of your sacrifice to the Lord and can ultimately bring you spiritual health as well. Lisa Turkhurst follows along a lot of the same lines in her book Made to Crave. However, I felt like this one was a little bit more personal, not quite as theoretical, maybe. I really like Gary Thomas's book. It's probably my number one in that category because he takes it very, very deep. This took it very much so into her story, and I felt like I was getting a maybe more personal glimpse into how to apply these to my own life. So even though I don't think it competes with Thomas's book, I think it brings another layer, another aspect. She talks a lot about how she went through her journey and in the same way had to teach herself, train herself to not fill her cravings with food, but to more so see it as a sacrifice, into delving deeper into what she was really craving and how to apply that to her spiritual health. I'm going to be taking this book with my clients throughout the month of June, and we're going to be applying this to my health and wellness group. We're going to be using it as a devotional and going through it together. So if you're interested, leave me a comment down below. I'd love to add you to that group. I think it's one of those concepts that's not talked about in Christian circles very much, but can really open up a lot of doors to both physical and spiritual health for believers. The next book that I read in May was Ocean Anatomy. This is by Julia Rotham. Now, you probably know the Nature Anatomy, Food Anatomy, Farm Anatomy series that the same author puts out. They are beautiful, full of great information, stunning. Her illustrations are so amazing. This is the first one that I have had a chance to get my hands on. Because I was asked to review it by the publisher. I'm going to link my full review down below. But I have to say, I've always heard this hype about the Nature Anatomy series, and I thought, is it really that good? I mean, from what I can see in the illustrations and the pictures, it looks great. Everybody raves about it. Wow. I have to say, I was a little nervous that it was going to be too simplistic and too young for my kids. My kids are a little bit older. We found so much information. It's not just the illustrations, although those are amazing. They're sort of, they're fun, they're whimsical, but they also have a lot of, she's really good at labeling her diagrams and stuff. She's really good at using lots of information. They're not just illustrations for the colors, but they also have a lot of information in them as well. And I felt like out of all the things, because we did just do an ocean unit not that long ago, out of all the resources that we used, this resource really pulled a lot of that information together in one place. So I was very, very impressed with the quality of this product. It's one of those that we have an ebook form right now, which is okay, but I'm really wanting to get my hands on a physical copy and to get a physical copy of the other books, because I really think they have some great value. I think that not just if you're homeschooling, although most of the people I talk to, they use them in their homeschool. I think even just as a parent, having that extra supplemental book in your library, even if I was just a parent, I would want to get this one. Okay, the next book I read was called The Preacher's Daughter. This is by Beverly Lewis. It's part of the Annie's People series. I have never heard of this one. Just before we went to shelter in place, the kids and I made one last kind of run to the library, and I ran upstairs and I just tried to think of authors that I know I like their work, and this was one that I grabbed off the shelf. No experience with it, had no idea what it was going to be about. I just knew I wanted something to read. So this is sort of the story of, like I said, it's the Annie's People series. This is the story of Annie, and she has had this long-time pen pal, Louisa. They've been friends for over 10 years, and Louisa decides that her life is not what she wants. She's an Englisher. She discovers that she was set up with her fiance, and it's all this grand scheme for him to climb the ladder of success and for her to be married off to someone successful. So she decides to leave that life, and she wants to go visit Annie in her Amish community. And it's about sort of how these two girls work together and deal with who they are. Louisa's kind of trying to figure out who she is. Does she want to go back to that life? Does she want something much simpler? Annie is struggling with being an artist in an Amish community, which is very much so frowned upon. And so they're at that critical age where they have to decide, is this really what I want, and am I willing and able to sacrifice for it, or am I going to go after something a little bit different than what's expected of me? Both girls have family expectations. Both girls are coming from very different places, but have a similar internal struggle happening here. Of course, there's other people in the community, and there's these little side stories that play in as well. Beverly Lewis is really great at bringing in other characters, and there's one character in particular that I think she's going to be the focal point for book 2, but I haven't gotten book 2 yet because my library's still closed. Did I like it? Yeah. I'm sort of at that point in the year, May, June, July, August. I want lots and lots of easy, brainless fiction because I'm ready to be on summer break. So this is what this was for me. I felt like the story was a little predictable. There were things that kept it going, kept it interesting. The characters are well written, although they do and say some things that are out of character. So if you're just looking for fun fiction, yes, although be prepared for it to be sort of, there were a couple of things that were sort of off a little bit. But I did like it. I would recommend it. I think it's great summer, fun, mindless reading, especially if you're into this genre. And that was really all I read this month. I started 2 other books that are both on my spring reading list. One was The Go-Giver. I've started this one, and it's super, super short. This is by Bob Burke and John David Mann. I will give a full review on this one in June, but if you're looking for a quick sort of leadership, business, philosophy type book, that's what I'm reading right now. The other one that I started was on my spring reading list as well, and that's The Prayer Saturated Family. I'm about halfway through that one, so I felt like I read more in May than I actually did, and that's because I have 2 books that I'm pushing for the end of right now. Let's talk about kids books. I started out the month reading Caddy Woodlawn. This is by Carol Ryer Brink. This is a Newbery Award winner. This is one of the books that I read when I was younger, and I was really excited to share it with the kids. We are going to be moving into sort of the prairie life when we come back to school in the fall, and so that's why I had this one on our 2020 reading list. This is sort of Laura Ingalls Wilder with a little bit more sass. Caddy has one sister and lots of brothers, and she's sandwiched between all those brothers. So she's into scrapes, adventures. Her mom and her older sister are always shaking their heads at her. And then the family comes to a dilemma of, will they stay pioneers or will they move actually to Europe? That's a little twist that comes at the end. This book I love. I could read this book over and over and over again, and it's a cute little glimpse. If you're looking for something other than the Little House series, this is a good glimpse into that time and era. The next book we read was Gold Rush Girl. Now this is the newest book by Avi, and I won't talk about it a whole lot because I just shared it with you a couple months ago when I read it. I reviewed it. So I will link that video down below. But I pulled it out again because we finished up our history unit this year with the Gold Rush, and so I wanted to read it with the kids. After everything that we studied about the Gold Rush, I thought it was a good fictional reading of what San Francisco was like at the time, and they loved it. They couldn't get enough of it. We read about 2 chapters a day, and they were asking always for more and more. We added it to our school time because it was completely applicable to what we were doing, and I found that even though I had already read it once, I was just as excited to read it the second time. So I feel like it's one of those books that your kids could return to over and over again. And the last book that we read with the kids this month was Lightlune. Now each year we take the month after we have finished our history unit and we talk about a continent. So this year it was Asia, and we talked about this little boy in this book who does not want to be a fisherman and is in fact very afraid of the sea. And so much like Annie and Louisa, he has to find his own way in the world in becoming a farmer. And can he prove to his family that he is ready for this? The kids liked it. It was a little bit dry. It's a little bit sad. But it was mercifully short, so they were not too, you know, some of those books carry on and on and on, and they're just sort of depressing. At least in this one, his journey came to a resolution very quickly. It is one that I think should definitely be added to an Asian study because it shares a lot about the culture, it shares a lot about the history, and sort of the mindset of a lot of the people there. So it was one of those that I'm glad we included, but I'm also glad was over very fast. So that's all the books that we read throughout the month of May, the books that I read, as well as the books that we read with the kids. I talked about a little glimpse into what is coming up in June. I will be sharing more about The Go-Giver as well as The Prayer-Saturated Family. I will probably also be talking about Women Living Well, which is Courtney Joseph's book, and sharing with you what I think of that one. I'm trying to finish up my spring reading list. Also, in the month of June, I will be sharing my summer reading list, and I don't know, I haven't started that one yet. I have so many possibilities rolling around in my brain of what I want to include, so be watching for that one. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Bye guys.